Ever wonder why chosen ones never seem to fit in? Well, today, we're going to get to the bottom of that mystery, because if you're anything like most chosen ones, you just might sometimes feel a lot like Noah building an ark on a sunny day. You know Noah, the guy from Genesis 6:9 in the Bible, who probably felt like he was hammering a square peg into a round hole, or a round ark in his case. Sounds like a fish out of water, doesn't it? Or should we say, a dove out of the ark? That's actually the beauty of it. No, not the ark, but the feeling of being a little out of sync, a little different. Beauty, you might ask. Yes, beauty. Because what if I told you that that feeling is not a cosmic joke, but a divine wink from God himself? What if you're not just another face in the crowd, but a chosen one for something spectacular? So spectacular that there's no way that you can ever blend into the crowd. Imagine that. A world where God says being different is not a flaw, but it's actually a gift, where the so-called oddballs, the misfits, the dreamers, the Noahs are called upon to do something extraordinary. We see it all through the Bible. God has a knack for choosing the most unlikely heroes. Don't you agree? Throughout history, it's always been the square pegs in round holes, the unconventional ones, who have left a lasting imprint on the world. So embrace the ark-building moments in your life. It's time to shift your perspective and take comfort in knowing that the world is shaped by those who march to a different drummer. Before we continue, please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you. Now let's get into the ins and outs of why chosen ones never seem to fit in. Drawing from the sacred pages of the Bible, we find numerous accounts of individuals who were different, who were chosen by God. The chronicles of time reveal these divinely chosen souls who not only stood apart, but seemed to operate on a divine wavelength. These are the called or chosen ones, men and women who were used by God to bring about monumental change, start divine revolutions, and shape the spiritual landscape as we understand it today. Now imagine a puzzle where every piece fits into its designated place, creating a complete image. Then think of a piece that doesn't fit conventionally. It's not defective, but it is very different from the others. This unique piece represents God's chosen ones in the Bible. These are the people who, from a young age, felt an unusual sense of being set apart. They were the dreamers, the visionaries who dared to defy norms for God's glory, the ones who blazed a different trail. Moses, for instance, was a chosen one. As the scripture records in Exodus 3:10, he felt a divine pull towards something greater, leading the Israelites out of Egypt. David, the young shepherd boy, chosen as per 1 Samuel 16:12, did not merely tend to his father's flock, but was anointed to shepherd an entire nation. Esther, an obscure orphan girl, became a queen who was instrumental in saving her people, as highlighted in Esther 4:14. The chosen ones in the Bible were philosophers, leaders, and revolutionaries in their own right. They dared to dream, dared to challenge, dared to fulfill God's purpose. They stood resilient, even when they were misunderstood, ridiculed, or persecuted, holding steadfast to their divine calling. Instead of succumbing to societal pressure to conform, they shattered the mold and created a new one, guided by their divine calling and purpose. They were not confined by societal expectations, but transcended them, carving a divine path. These divinely chosen individuals were never destined to fit in, but to stand out for God's glory. Through their courage, resilience, and determination, they not only transformed their own lives, but influenced spiritual paths of many. They showed us that being different in God's eyes does not mean being less, but being more. These chosen ones were meant to stand alone. All that being said, let's face it, being different and not fitting in can be downright painful. Let's take a look at the struggles of being different. Being set apart in God's plan, being chosen, isn't always glorious. Those whom God selects for his purposes, those who break new ground, often face their own distinct set of trials. This journey of being different, of being chosen, is not always smooth. It's reminiscent of Joseph's journey to Egypt, sold into slavery by his own brothers, as depicted in Genesis 37:28. It's a lot like climbing a mountain with no trail to follow, while others are strolling in a well-tended garden. One of the most profound struggles the chosen ones grapple with is loneliness. Just like Job, a man blameless and upright, suffered severe loss and hardship as described in Job 1-22. When you're different, when you perceive God's word differently, it can often feel like you're navigating through life alone. It's like being a lone prophet in a world full of non-believers. Misunderstanding is another common challenge. When your thoughts, ideas, or actions don't align with the norm, it can be hard for others to understand. They may question your motives, your faith, and even your integrity. Much like Paul, who faced immense suffering for Christ's name as described in Acts 9-16. It's like preaching God's word in a room full of people speaking a different spiritual language. And let's not forget opposition. When you're set apart and you challenge the worldly ways, you're bound to face resistance. People are often uncomfortable with change and with things they don't understand, and so they poke fun or ridicule. It's like swimming upstream when everyone else is drifting downstream. These struggles, loneliness, misunderstanding, opposition, they are not easy to bear. They can be daunting, overwhelming, and even disheartening at times. But remember, every struggle is a step forward in God's plan, and every challenge is an opportunity to grow and evolve. Being chosen is about carving your own path and shaping your own spiritual destiny based on God's plan for your life using the gifts that He gave you. And yes, it can be a lonely, misunderstood, and opposed journey, but it's also a journey filled with spiritual discovery, with growth, and with transformation. The road less traveled in God's plan is often the most difficult, but it leads to the most rewarding destinations. So embrace your spiritual differences and embrace your unique calling, because being different, being chosen, is not a burden, it's a blessing. It's not a curse, it's a divine calling. And it's not a struggle, it's a journey in God's greater plan. Regardless of the difficulties, there are definite triumphs that are experienced by chosen ones. Let's take a look at some of them now. Being a chosen one most certainly has moments of glory. Even in the face of adversity, the chosen servants of God that we're about to examine prevailed, altering the spiritual landscape forever. Truly, their triumphs were not commonplace. These are tales of individuals like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who dared to be different, who dared to follow God's calling, and in doing so, left an unforgettable mark on the history of faith. Their distinctive calling was not a barrier. Instead, it was what launched them into triumph. Take a look at these biblical figures, the spiritual pioneers, the faith revolutionaries. Their strength did not come from blending into the crowd, but rather it came from a divine uniqueness that set them apart. Their one-of-a-kind perspectives allowed them to see God's hand where others saw mere circumstances, and to see divine interventions where others saw impossibilities. They dared to dream, and in dreaming, they witnessed realities shaped by God's divine power. As seen in Daniel 6:22, "My God sent His angel, and He shut the mouths of the lions." Then there were the leaders, the visionaries, and the change agents. These were individuals who refused to accept the status quo, and who dared to challenge norms and conventions of the times they were living in. Their unique insights and convictions led them to start movements that brought about spiritual transformations. They dared to stand up, and in standing up, they empowered others to rise in faith as well. Consider Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, where a fourth figure appeared, as found in Daniel 3:25. "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the fourth looks like the Son of God." Perhaps the greatest triumph of these chosen ones is not the praise they received or the miracles they witnessed. It's the fact that they've shown us the power and potential of being faithful. They've shown us that it's not just okay to be unique in our faith, it's essential, for it's through our faithfulness that we can make a difference that contributes to God's kingdom. Their victories weren't just personal, they were victories for all of God's people. For in their triumphs, we find spiritual inspiration. In their stories, we find the courage to embrace our own faith and the confidence to walk our own spiritual journey. If you've ever struggled to fit in as a chosen one, stick around and keep your chin up. It's about to get exciting. We're going to take a look at some case studies of chosen ones and their one-of-a-kind impacts. Let's first consider the life of Peter, a man whose transformation is a testament to faith and tenacity. Peter, one of the 12 apostles, was not always recognized for his influential role, Originally, his life was marked by ordinary routines and trials. Born in Bethsaida, Peter was a fisherman by trade. He led a simple life catching fish and navigating the waters of the Sea of Galilee. However, what set Peter apart was his faith in Jesus Christ. He had the ability to believe in the message of Christ, a trait that was both his strength and his challenge. While his peers were content with their routine lives, Peter was building a firm belief in the teachings of Jesus. This unusual path made him an odd one out in a traditional society. He spent countless hours listening to Jesus' teachings and spreading his word, feeding his newfound purpose. As time passed, he began to live out the teachings and virtues of Christ. Then came the life-changing moment, as recorded in Matthew 16:18, when Jesus said to Peter, "And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." From that point on, Peter emerged as a bold apostle. Acts 2:14-41 records Peter's powerful sermon on the day of Pentecost, where he passionately preached to the masses, leading to the conversion of about 3,000 souls. His transformation from a simple fisherman to a cornerstone of the early church forever changed the course of Christian history. Despite his humble beginnings, Peter never let the expectations of others define his worth or limit his potential. Instead, he embraced his calling, his differentness, and used it to his advantage. His faith and courage led him to achievements that were beyond the reach of conventional minds. His story is a testament to the power of faith and the possibilities it can unfold. It's a reminder that the chosen ones, the ones who do not fit in, the ones who see the world differently, are often the ones who end up changing it. Peter, a true chosen one, embraced his calling and changed the course of Christian history. Now, let's delve into the life and legacy of Apostle Paul, a figure of paramount importance in Christian history. Initially named Saul, he was a fierce enemy of Christ's disciples, as revealed in Acts 9:1-2. In a world swayed by public opinions, Saul stood firm in his beliefs, even if they were against the mainstream. However, he was destined for a dramatic transformation that would shake the foundations of his life. Saul's metamorphosis into Paul was not a mere change. It was a divine revolution, charting a dramatic change in course for his future. After a divine encounter with Jesus Christ on his journey to Damascus, Paul was transformed into a strong believer in the gospel. He prioritized forgiveness over retaliation, grace in place of judgment, and unity beyond division. These choices did not guarantee an easy path, but they filled his journey with a God-given purpose. Paul's evangelistic approach was groundbreaking. He embarked on many missionary journeys, wrote inspiring messages, and boldly confronted the religious authorities of his era. Despite being arrested, victimized, and shipwrecked, as narrated in 2 Corinthians 11:25-27, he used every opportunity he had to spread the teachings of Christ. His letter to the Corinthians stands as a lasting testament to his complete commitment to the gospel. Paul's influence on Christianity is huge. His writings and actions are some of the most incredible in church history, sparking a religious revolution and giving momentum to a movement that forever changed Christianity. His efforts helped spread the gospel across various nations, a feat that seems almost impossible given his background. Yet Paul's impact extends beyond the church. His life inspired belief in the power of faith, the resilience of endurance, and the promise of transformation. He taught us that being different is not a curse, but a blessing. Through his life, we see that God's chosen ones aren't meant to blend in, but rather to differentiate themselves. Paul, another of God's chosen, utilized his distinctive voice to redefine Christianity. Now let's talk about a genius of a man, a chosen one, Albert Einstein. This extraordinary man was born in Germany in 1879, and he didn't quite fit the mold of your average whiz kid. School wasn't his favorite place, and he often found himself at odds with his teachers and classmates. He didn't care much for simply memorizing facts. Instead, he wanted to really understand ideas and concepts. Albert Einstein thought differently, and because of that, he came up with some of the coolest ideas the world has ever known. His different thinking wasn't always easy. It made him stand out, and sometimes people didn't understand him. But he didn't let that stop him. In fact, he believed that the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. He used his imagination to develop his theory of relativity, and in 1905, during what's often referred to as his miracle year, he published 4 groundbreaking papers that completely changed the way we understand physics. He introduced us to a really important equation, E=mc². Einstein's ingenuity taught us that being different can be a really good thing. His different way of thinking, which was sometimes laughed at, became the building blocks for his amazing contributions to science. He was a true trailblazer in his field, using his unique point of view to change the way we think about the universe. So remember, what makes you different can be your greatest strength if you have the courage to embrace it. Now, let's shift our focus to a brave man and chosen one who stood up against the system, a significant figure named Martin Luther King Jr. Born in 1929, King grew up in a world filled with segregation and racial prejudice. However, he chose the path of peace and kindness. Drawing from the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, King adopted the strategy of nonviolent resistance, leading peaceful marches and delivering powerful speeches to fight for justice. His renowned "I Have a Dream" speech, a testament to his ability to stir and mobilize people, is remembered as one of the most influential speeches in American history. King's unwavering commitment to equality and justice, his peaceful approach to activism, and his influential speeches made him stand out as a distinguished leader. His continuous efforts were instrumental in the enactment of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, a law that ended racial discrimination. Brave in the face of multiple threats and imprisonment, King is famously quoted as saying, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." King used his distinctive voice to bring about a revolution, proving that one person can indeed make a difference. His life serves as an example of what a chosen one can accomplish, all while not fitting in with the masses. It is also a reminder that when we honor our individuality and uphold our beliefs, we too can change the world around us for the better. So what can we learn from these incredible chosen ones? Have you noticed their inability to simply blend into the crowd? Isn't it captivating? The power that they possess, stemming from acknowledging and celebrating their distinct characteristics instilled within them by God, is simply inspiring. In a world that persistently pushes for conformity, their bravery to stay true to their individuality is praiseworthy. These people, like those chosen ones referenced in 1 Peter 2, verse 9, challenged societal conventions. They didn't stifle their divine spirit to fit in. They proudly showcased their individuality, and in doing so, they reshaped the world. But let's pause and ponder. What does it mean to embrace our divine uniqueness? It means to accept and value every part of ourselves, the commendable and the not so commendable parts, because we are a creation of the Most High God as cited in Ephesians 2:10. It's about self-acceptance, rejoicing in our unique traits, and boldly expressing our genuine selves. It's about letting our divine light guide us and ignite inspiration in others. Don't be mistaken. Appreciating our divine uniqueness doesn't mean we're all destined to be prophets or leaders, but it does suggest that we each have the capacity to make a positive difference in our own distinctive way. We all have been gifted with a unique ability and a divine purpose. When we acknowledge and embrace our individuality, we step into a world filled with endless possibilities. We tap into our divine power and shape our own fate. Hence, let's take a cue from the story of these one-of-a-kind people. Let's celebrate our individuality, our uniqueness. Let's resist the urge to conform and stand out instead. So remember this: the next time you feel sad about not fitting in, keep in mind that you are in outstanding company. God is likely preparing you for a remarkable purpose as one of His chosen ones. Remember, it's not about being like everyone else, but about being the best you can be. And that is why those chosen of God will never, ever just fit in. If you find value in this kind of content, please subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and God bless you.